Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll gain confidence, clarity, and a competitive edge in a crowded marketplace so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm talking about how to stop people-pleasing so that you can have a better business. When designers get into a service-based business, such as graphic design, logo design, or web design, you probably have every intention of providing good service and making clients happy. And you should. But many designers are people pleasers, which actually ends up hurting their creative business. I know because I did the same thing. So stick around to find out how people pleasing actually hurts your business and what to do about it. Now, when I say people pleaser, what I mean is a person who sacrifices their own best interests and prioritizes making others happy. You might be afraid to assert yourself in your business. And that's not to say that you shouldn't provide good customer service to clients. Like I said, you should. But providing good customer service doesn't mean that you have to be at the whim of every client request or at their beck and call, or that the client is always right. In fact, if you were to do that, your business would suffer. I know because I did this for many years. So for example, I often made small edits for free just because it was a good client. I underpriced work thinking it would help me get new clients. Ironically, I lost much more work from pricing too low than from pricing too high. I assumed that if a client asked questions about the price, that it must be too high. I was completely intimidated talking about money. I would take on work that I wasn't great at or that I hated doing simply because the client asked me to do it. And sometimes I sucked up the cost of revisions that were outside the original scope of the project. I also often would rush to get a project done earlier, and then worse, not even charging extra for it just because a client asked me to, even if it meant working late at night or on weekends to get it done. As if that's not enough, I would sometimes answer calls or respond to emails outside of my supposed business hours. And I also didn't enforce late fees for chronic late paying large clients. And I put up with really bad behavior from a lot of clients. And I made excuses like, but they're my biggest client. And my business was like a ping pong ball that just bounced from one client request to another. And my business was not in my control. And it was really, really stressful. So if any of that sounds like you, keep listening. I see so many other designers doing these things. Now, when you're a people pleaser, let me tell you, you lose all leverage. It's no longer an equal partnership between you and a client. It's really a dictatorship, with them being the dictators, because you don't end up running your business. The client does. Now, if you're a people pleaser, as I was in the past, then you might sabotage your business without even knowing it, right? And you might do this for many reasons. And the first reason is that you might have low self-esteem or lack confidence in your abilities. And I know of so many talented designers who don't believe in themselves. They just aren't confident. And I see this a lot, especially with designers who are just starting out. And hey, I get it. I mean, I was the same way. But see, what happens is like, just because you're new at it, you don't own your skills and expertise. And so then you tend to undervalue your work. And you might ask yourself, well, if someone can Google how to design a logo or how to build a website, why in the world would they hire me to do it for them? You might compare your current skills or your current pricing to other designers who've been in the industry a long time. And you're not comparing apples to apples. And you might say, but how can I charge more when there are better designers out there? You also might say, I can't raise my rates because I don't have experience in this industry. But hey, we all start at different levels, okay? And some designers are awesome right out of the gate. I was not one of them, and some need to work on their skills more. I was one of those. Another reason that you might be people pleasing is because you want to avoid confrontation. And boy, oh boy, did I do this all the time. You want to avoid confrontation of any kind, or what you might see as a potential conflict, even though it's really not a conflict, right? Anything that makes you uncomfortable, you're looking to avoid at all costs. You just don't want to ruffle any feathers, and you don't want clients to balk or question you. And when your goal is to avoid confrontation or conflict, you actually might become resentful toward the client, right? And it makes it harder to do a good job for them because you already feel taken advantage of. So what happens is that you might not do your best work. And the client might even notice that too. They could even lose trust in you and question your expertise. And that might make you lose a lot of confidence. And it could also cost you a good testimonial or review or referral to other clients. But having what seem to be uncomfortable conversations is simply a part of being in business. They also always won't feel uncomfortable, right? You get better with practicing these conversations. And that will actually help you build your confidence too. Now, another reason that you might be people pleasing is because you fear rejection or disappointing others. Some people in general, but especially designers, have a fear of rejection or disappointing others. I mean, after all, we're creators. And when someone criticizes your work or doesn't feel like it was up to par, you might not be able to help but take that personally. Or you might start second guessing yourself. Now, sometimes that feedback can actually motivate us to become better designers. And sometimes you can do everything well, and no matter what you do, you will never please everyone, right? I mean, you know what they say about everyone having an opinion. Another reason is that you might find it difficult to say no. I mean, I did this a lot too. You want to be seen as the nice, helpful designer. So you say yes to requests that you shouldn't. You might take on work that you're really not good at doing, and then you don't do the best job. Then the client won't want to give you a testimonial, or they might even question the invoice, and they probably won't refer you to others either. You also might take on clients who aren't a good fit. Not every client is a good client for you. And you might take on projects that have unreasonable deadlines, which ends up affecting your other client work. You might also start responding to clients outside of your business hours, or you respond immediately. And they come to expect that from you. And let me tell you, it's really hard to untrain them from that. You might let them text you when you really prefer that they call or email you instead. Now, another reason that you might be a people pleaser is because you're empathetic. And I actually find this to be the case with so many designers. And I think we're just naturally wired this way as creative individuals. I think that empathy is also probably related to having imposter syndrome too, because you're so genuine and you want to do a good job. And so you don't think that you're good enough. But what's funny is that imposter complex expert Tanya Geisler, who I had on the podcast, said that usually people that feel that way are the ones who aren't the imposters. The ones that are the imposters are the ones that don't think about and care about this stuff. Okay, now another reason is that you might also just want to be liked. I mean, we all do, right? But being liked does not keep you in business. Okay, being the nice or the lowest price designer doesn't usually get you more work. And if it does, you might attract the wrong clients, the tire kickers. And if you aren't going to be profitable, what is the point of even taking that work on in the first place? Now, being nice also doesn't usually get you more respect. It doesn't get you the next project or client. Clients aren't looking for nice so much as they are looking for expertise and confidence that you can get the job done well and on time. And you might actually make exceptions to your rules, your policies, such as not getting payment up front with all new clients, just to be seen as nice. You might not charge for work that falls outside the original scope, making the project unprofitable for you, and maybe the client ends up seeing you as a pushover. Now, I'm not saying don't be nice, but be nice as in pleasant with your personality, sure, but you don't have to constantly do favors for clients. Now, you also might look for external validation of your self-worth. So what I mean by that is like you seek praise. And when you don't get it, you feel like you or your work just aren't good enough. And yes, we all love to hear that we did a great job, right? But sometimes I see designers looking for obstacles to put in front of themselves to justify not doing something, to justify not taking a step. So you might say, I can't raise my prices until I get such and such certification. Or you might say, I can't offer a particular service to my clients until I take this particular course. And these, again, might be a way for you to justify in your mind procrastination, not taking the steps that you're actually ready to take, but you don't because of a mindset of not being good enough. And listen, I've suffered from perfectionism my entire life. So I remind myself of this phrase, and that is progress over perfection. So don't let wanting to be perfect get in the way either. So how do you stop being a people pleaser? Well, you have to start by putting you first. You have to put your business first. One way to do that is to set clear boundaries. And those could be how you want clients to work with you and how and when you want them to contact you, when you expect payments, etc. Another thing to do is to not lowball your pricing. You really have to make sure that when you're pricing design work, that it will be profitable as opposed to lowballing to win a new client or project. Okay, and speaking of pricing, talk money up front. Don't be afraid. This is what experts do. They talk money up front. And if you aren't confident doing this, and I used to not be confident at all about this, right? But if you're not confident with this, then run, don't walk to episode 42, where I talked with Blair Enns about pricing and sales. And read his books, Win Without Pitching Manifesto and Pricing Creativity. And then listen to episode 50 on confidence and sales with my friend Mike Killen. And then also get his book, Sell Futures, Not Features. I mean, there's such amazing advice in all of them. The other thing is that you really need to get comfortable saying no to clients. Don't go to such great lengths to make a client happy out of fear of losing them at the expense of your mental health. And I made this mistake for many years. Okay, you also want to say no to unreasonable requests, such as endless revisions or pulling all-nighters. Okay, you want to say no to doing free work, unless it's a cause that you care about and you're happy to do the work for free. Like, for example, I've done that for quite a few animal rescues. Okay, and saying no to things that you're not good at, that you're not sure that you're going to be able to get a good outcome for. And you know what? Saying yes to projects or clients that aren't the right fit means that you have less time for the ones who are the right fit. Okay? Another thing is, don't take on any project or client that comes your way. Take time to actually consider if this is going to be a good fit or not. You want to stick with the work that you're good at and getting good results for those clients. Something else to do is to look back at your past work to remind yourself how far you've come, how much your skills have improved. And this will actually help you build confidence because it is so easy to forget where we started. What you have to remember is that we all start somewhere and that clients get the best that you can offer where you are now in your skill set and expertise. Now, I have shown pics of my college projects and my first job out of college on social media. And if you saw them, you probably had a good laugh. And that's okay, I did too. My skills vastly improved in a short time frame. And then, as you'd expect, showed a ton more improvement after being in the industry more than 2 decades, right? Where you are now is not where you are stuck forever. Okay, so if your work is not at the level that you want it to be, get a mentor to help you pinpoint areas that you need to work on. And, go look at other designers' work, but not to compare necessarily, but just to see how they approached a design and why you think it looks better than yours, such as like, did they have a better grasp on typography than you do? And if so, then that's something that you could work on. And when you're more confident about your work, you're also less likely to undervalue it, underprice it. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any people-pleasing behaviors, nip them in the bud and it will totally benefit your business. When I did it, it changed so much, not only in my life, but with my business. And it's like so amazing to come out on the other side and have respect from clients and only focus on the work that you want to do and get paid more for that. If you're feeling stuck and having trouble breaking through to a better mindset, find out more about mentoring and inquire to see if it would be a good fit for you. Go to creative-boost.com/mentoring.